Well, hello, I'm Willie from the Ozarks, and here we are on January the 19th of 2023, Lesson 19 in A Course in Miracles Workbook for Students. We're reading from the original edition. Lesson 19, I am not alone in experiencing the effects of my thoughts. I'm not alone in experiencing the effects of my thoughts. The idea for today is obviously the reason why your seeing does not affect you alone. You will notice that at times the idea related to thinking precede those related to perceiving, while at other times the order is reversed. The reason is that the order does not actually matter. Thinking and its results are really simultaneous, for cause and effect are never separate. Today we are again emphasizing the fact that minds are joined. Minds are joined. I'm not alone in experiencing the effects of my thoughts. Today we are again emphasizing the fact that minds are joined. This is rarely a wholly welcome idea at first, since it seems to carry with it an enormous sense of responsibility and may even be regarded as an invasion of privacy. Yet it is a fact, and there are no private thoughts. Yet it is a fact that there are no private thoughts. I hear you thought that all the things you thought no one else could know what they were. Despite your initial resistance to this idea, you will yet understand that it must be true if salvation is possible at all. And salvation must be possible because it is the will of God. The way I like to think of it in this particular idea is that there's just really one being, and it's made of many cells. And all those cells know what high command wants, or any kind of command that comes about. You know, if there's a hostage command that's given, everybody hears it. But that doesn't make it the right choice, but it's an ego choice that the whole being ends up hearing. Think of your body and the cells, or think of society and all the different people in it. We're all a cell in the bigger body that we compose, either a cell in the human body or as an individual cell in the corporate body of humanity, or the body of Christ is how I like to think of that. The minute or so of mind searching which today's exercises require are to be undertaken with eyes closed. The idea is to be repeated first, and then the mind should be carefully searched for thoughts it contains at that time. As you consider each one, name it in terms of the central person or theme it contains, and holding it in your mind as you do so, say, I am not alone in experiencing the effects of this thought about blank. And if you're like me, you take most of your time just figuring out what you're thinking, and then once you've realized you're thinking about something, then what you have to do is define it, with the central name or an idea that it's holding. And that can be a kind of a challenge, and then go on to the next thought. But say to each one, I'm not alone in experiencing the effects of this thought about blank. The requirement of as much indiscriminateness as possible in selecting subjects for the practice period should be quite familiar to you by now, and will no longer be repeated each day, although it will occasionally be included as a reminder. Do not forget, however, that random selection of subjects for all practice periods remain essential throughout. Lack of order in this connection will ultimately make the recognition of lack of order in miracles meaningful to you. Wow, you're telling us how come we're not supposed to use anything other than our eye lighted on it? Is that we use that for our subject matter? Today it's the same thing, but if our mind thinks it, well then it's suitable. Don't differentiate, is what he's saying. And that ultimately, this practice of not making distinctions between what is pleasant or unpleasant, big or small, bright or shadowed, will help us in our lack of order in this connection will ultimately make the recognition of lack of order in miracles meaningful to you. Apart from the as-needed application of today's idea, at least 3 practice periods are required, shortening the length of time involved if necessary. Do not attempt more than 4. So 4 formal practice periods you can do today, as well as you can use it throughout the day if something comes up that disturbs you. You can say, I'm not alone in experiencing the effects of this thought about when whatever it is, that person getting upset with me. You know, that could be a good example. All right. Okay, I'm not alone in experiencing the effects of my thoughts. Let's go back and take a look in our text reading for today, and we're in chapter 3, Retraining the Mind. Retraining the Mind. And we're ready for section Roman numeral 5, Roman numeral 4. Miracles as accurate perception. Miracles as accurate perception. And as you're turning there, let me tell you about another apple. And it's the King David apple. Is that the one I was going to? Yeah, King David apple. And let me just tell you a little bit about the King David big apple. King David apple. King David is an heirloom apple that was discovered in 1893 growing on the farm of Ben Frost in Durham, Arkansas. It is thought to be either a cross of Jonathan and Arkansas Black or a cross of Jonathan and Winesap. King David is extremely disease resistant. Fruit is medium. Remember, he only carries in this brochure, and this will be the last apple we'll read about in Edible Landscaping. He only, out of all the thousands of apple cultivars, he's only picked these maybe half a dozen or maybe 8 or so, because they are extremely disease resistant. Fruit is medium size and round in shape. Flesh is pale cream yellow, firm and crunchy with an incredible flavor. Michael, the founder of Edible Landscaping, says it is the most delicious apple I ever ate. Has been reported to do well into zone 10 with low chill hour conditions, but we suggest 4 through 8. Okay, well, there you go, your King David apple. And I wanted to tell you something else about apples that I bet a lot of you didn't realize, that there's lots of the bark and the leaves in particular, as well as the seeds, all have medicinal or have been used medicinally. And I found this on about apple leaf treatment on coldhardyfruits.com. Due to their astringent and antiseptic quality, apple leaves make an excellent topical application. They make excellent first aid application when they are masticated and placed on a fresh wound to prevent infection and to stop bleeding, to reduce inflamed swelling, and also on bug bites and scratches. It says on infected bug bites and scratches. But I mean, bug bites in general, I expect they'd probably be helpful for a bee sting or any number of bug bites. It talked about masticating it, chewing it. I didn't think that a lot of health professionals would probably like that. Mouth's not necessarily real clean. If you're doing it on yourself, you might get by with it, but I wouldn't encourage that with putting it on somebody else. But anyway, get it mulched up real good and then put it on the wound. Break up the leaf real well. Okay, now let's go. Let me put my little card back so I'll be able to sing here in a minute. Our lesson. I'm not alone in experiencing the effects of my thoughts. We're going to use the same melody we were using yesterday when I'm not alone in experiencing the effects of my seeing. Miracles as accurate perception. We've repeatedly stated that the basic concepts referred to in this course are not matters of degree. Certain fundamental concepts can be meaningfully understood in terms of coexisting polarities. It is impossible to conceive of light and darkness or everything and nothing as joint possibilities. They are all true or all false. It is essential that you realize that behavior is erratic until a firm commitment to one or the other is made. A firm commitment to either light or darkness, true or truth or illusion. But then he goes on to say in the next paragraph, a firm commitment to darkness or nothingness is impossible. So you might think you've committed yourself to devious, I'm not sure how a person would think of that, but you can't be. Look what he says about this, though. A firm commitment to darkness or nothingness is impossible. No one has ever lived who has not experienced some light and some of everything. This makes everyone really unable to deny truth totally, even if he generally deceives himself in this connection. That is why those who live largely in darkness and emptiness never find any lasting solace. Innocence is not a partial attribute. It is not a real defense until it is total. When it is partial, it is characterized by the same erratic nature that holds for other two-edged defenses. The partly innocent are apt to be quite stupid at times. Not sure if that's politically correct terminology. The partly innocent are apt to be quite stupid at times. It is not until their innocence becomes a genuine viewpoint, which is universal in its application, that it becomes wisdom. So you want to leave the world of foolishness or stupidity and come into the world of what's he call it? Wisdom? Well then, he says it is not their innocence. Oh, it is not until their innocence becomes a genuine viewpoint, which is universal in its application, that it becomes wisdom. Wow, innocence becoming in a universal application, seeing everyone is innocent. Innocent or true perception means that you never misperceive and always see truly. You're going to see the innocence of creation in everything and everyone. It's always there, just whether or not you're willing to see it. You're going to see truth or illusion. That's really the question. More simply, it means that you never see what does not really exist. Evil doesn't really exist. It's only in dreams. When you lack confidence in what someone will do when you are attesting to your belief that he is not in his right mind. When you lack confidence in what someone will do, you are attesting to your belief that he is not in his right mind. This is hardly a miracle-based frame of reference. It also has the disastrous effect of denying the creative power of the miracle. So let's just learn to not, when you lack confidence in what someone will do, you are attesting to your belief that he is not in his right mind. Let's not go there. Let's not doubt our brothers and sisters. Matter of fact, 1 Corinthians 13 talks about love believes the best in everyone. This is hardly a miracle-based frame of reference if you lack, how does he say it? When you lack confidence in what someone will do, you are attesting to your belief that he is not in his right mind. And this is hardly a miracle-based frame of reference. It also has the disastrous effect of denying the creative power of the miracle. Paragraph 29. The miracle perceives everything as it is. If nothing but the truth exists, and this is really a redundant statement because what is not true cannot exist. Right-minded seeing cannot see anything but perfection. Right-minded seeing, that's what we want to get to. Can't see anything but perfection. What is real? We have said many times that only what God creates or what man creates with the same will has any real existence. This then is all the innocent we can see. This then is all the innocent can see. They do not suffer from the distortions of the separated ones. The way to correct all such distortions is to withdraw your faith from them and invest it only in what is true. High order, that's something that we need to learn to do more and more until we've done it always. Be ye perfect, even as your Father in heaven is perfect, Jesus said back on Sermon on the Mount. Well, we can do it, can't we? You cannot validate the invalid. I would suggest that you voluntarily give up all such attempts because they can only be frantic. Let me read that again. You cannot validate the invalid. I would suggest that you voluntarily give up all such attempts because they can only be frantic. If you're willing to validate what is true in everything you perceive, you will make it true for you. Wow, let's validate the innocence of our brothers and sisters, and that'll become true for us. Truth overcomes all error. Love overcomes all error. Truth overcomes all error. This means that if you perceive truly, you are canceling out misperceptions in yourself and in others simultaneously. Because you see them as they are, you offer them your own validation and their truth. Because you see them as they are, you offer them your own validation of their truth. This is the healing which the miracle actively fosters. This is the healing which the miracle actively fosters. Okay, let's go back and take a look at I am not alone in experiencing the effects of my thoughts. The minute or so of mind searching which today's exercises require are to be undertaken with eyes closed, the idea to be repeated first, and then the mind should be carefully searched for thoughts it contains at that time. As you consider each one, name it in terms of the central person or theme it contains, and holding it in your mind as you do so, say, I'm not alone in experiencing the effects of this thought about blank. And then he gives us that reminder, the requirements of such indiscriminateness as possible in selecting subjects for the practice period should be quite familiar to you by now and will no longer be repeated each day, although it will occasionally be included as a reminder. Do not forget, however, that random selection of subjects for all practice periods remains essential throughout. Lack of order in this connection will ultimately make recognition of lack of order in miracles meaningful to you. Apart from the as-needed application of today's idea, at least 3 practice periods are required, shortening the length of time involved if you feel it uncomfortable or you feel some kind of negative feeling. Well, then you can shorten it, but still do at least 3, even if it's just for a few seconds. Do not attempt more than 4. But you can do the as-needed application. So if something comes up during the day, you're welcome to use it in that regard, to kind of bring your attention back to what's important. Okay, let's see if I can find a position where I don't have to move my guitar again after I get started. I'm not alone in experiencing the effects of my thoughts. And you all can do your mind searching as I'm playing if you'd like. I'm not alone in experiencing the effects of my thoughts. I'm not alone in experiencing the effects of my thoughts. I'm not alone in experiencing the effects of this thought about, you name it. I'm not alone in experiencing the effects of this thought about. I'm not alone in experiencing the effects of this thought about. I'm not alone in experiencing the effects of this thought about. I'm not alone in experiencing the effects of this thought about. I'm not alone in experiencing the effects of this thought. I'm not alone in experiencing the effects of this thought. I'm not alone in experiencing the effects of my thoughts. I'm not alone in experiencing the effects of my thoughts. I'm not alone in experiencing the effects of my thoughts. Thank you all so much for joining me out here in the Ozarks today. Until tomorrow, practice your 4 times. I'm not alone in experiencing the effects of my thoughts.